Well, right now it brings me much pleasure to introduce you to a truly phenomenal musician that is visiting Tucson for just a few days. We're so grateful that he's performing in concert this Saturday at 3 p.m. and again at 7 p.m. at the Tucson Osteopathic Center over on Swan near Fort Lowell. But he took a little bit of time, really literally fresh off the plane from India, to come down and play for you live on Global Rhythm Radio. So presenting a piece based on Rag Madhuvanti, this is the incredible Sarangi of Harsh Narayan. Well, I'm so honored to be able to share a little bit of time this evening with Harsh Narayan, who you heard play that beautiful Sarangi, which is by far one of the most incredible musical instruments in the world, but especially in the Indian musical tradition. And it's not often that we have live guests on Global Rhythm Radio, especially people really directly from India. So Harsh, I'd like for you to take a moment to just tell a little bit about the history of the Sarangi as it relates to your own family.
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank you, Matt, for having me on this show. And it is an honor for me to be here and to reach out to all the audiences here in Tucson. Well, about the Sarangi, the instrument that I play, it is one of the most oldest and the traditional instrument of India. It is a bowed instrument, and as far as the history goes, it has always been an accompanying instrument, accompanying with the vocalist. So, like whatever the vocalist would sing, the job of the Sarangi player would be to kind of just imitate that and follow that. Unfortunately, that's been the primary role of the Sarangi and the Sarangi player. But now it enjoys a status of a solo classical instrument thanks to my grandfather, Pandit Ram Narayan, who's taken it globally at the best international festivals all around the world.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a few people in history, at least within our lifetime, within the past few generations, that have taken an instrument and elevated it. And I'm sure we could name a number of people, including musicians, that a lot of American audiences would recognize. But I feel like your grandfather was one of those, because like you mentioned, Sarangi was something that was really accompanied, similar to some of the other instruments, even tabla, for instance. But then musicians were able to take them and set them into that context of truly highly performed classical instruments, and your grandfather did that. And it's been said that the Sarangi most closely mimics the human voice. And so how much vocal training have you had in studying Sarangi?
Well, a lot of the Sarangi music is primarily vocal music. So although I'm not trained as a vocalist, but you basically sing in your mind before you produce the notes. So in a way, I wouldn't like to claim that I'm a singer, but I can sing here and there a little bit, but just as a part of my training, but not really as a performer. But yes, you're right that a lot of the Sarangi music comes from vocal music.
Beautiful. So tell me a little bit about your own path with this instrument. Obviously, born into a family where the Sarangi is very important. I mean, you yourself, an accomplished player, your aunt, who I mentioned before, Aruna Narayan Kale, who is a very celebrated Sarangi player, and then, of course, your grandfather, who helped really kind of elevate this instrument. So did you have a choice in the matter, or is it something that you just, you were gifted?
I don't know if I would say I was gifted, but yeah, I like to believe that, and because I started learning from my grandfather when I was 6 years old, and my father, Sarud Maestro Pandit Brij Narayan, he was touring the world at that time. So as a kid, I spent more time with my grandfather, and I heard him practice because he was kind of slowing down a little bit with his performances. So that's when I saw the Sarangi. I would see him perform every day, and I said, this is something that I want to do. And this was the thing, I saw my grandfather and my father, my family basically just doing this. So I grew up believing that, okay, this is what I need to do. And, once I started learning, I started getting very deep into the subject. And I would say with the blessings of my parents, my grandfather, Pandit Ram Narayan, I am able to, continue with the path of music.
So beautiful, and thank you for sharing it. So I heard that you're on a U.S. tour now. You just played in Colorado, and then this Saturday you'll play 2 concerts here in Tucson. And then where does this instrument take you next?
Then I have a performance in Phoenix next, followed by Philadelphia, Bethlehem. Then I'm doing concerts in Ohio. So that's a few university events there. That's Cleveland University, Bowling Green University, Kent University, and then I'm doing a teaching residency in Baltimore, close to Washington, D.C.
Outstanding. So how long will you be away from home? Because Mumbai is home, yes?
Yes, Mumbai is home. I think another month to go.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to play tonight and to talk, and then also to perform. And I do want to let people know that if you'd like to hear a full evening of Indian classical music, there are 2 concerts that are offered this Saturday. One at 3 p.m., which is an afternoon concert, and then another at 7 p.m., both of which are at the Tucson Osteopathic Center, which is a medical foundation, which is happening on Swan Road, kind of near Fort Lowell. It's It's a beautiful small venue in which Tucson Harmonium brings Indian classical music a few times a year, and we're so honored that you're here. I think one of the first times that I'd actually heard you or seen you play was from a short clip that Cynthia or Camilo had taken of you playing on the south rim of Grand Canyon.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So what was that your first time visiting Grand Canyon?
Yes, that was my first time visiting Grand Canyon, and it was just so beautiful there. And, my friends Camilo and Cynthia, they were kind enough to take me for a short vacation after my concert back in 2015. And I said, hey, we got to just stop here and get a short clip, And, I had my GoPro with me, and we had the Zoom recorder, and, it was just like a one-take clip, and it came out beautiful.
Agreed. Well, I think that the path of the musician, you hit concert stages, you get at universities, residencies, house concerts, but occasionally you end up in those truly magical places, that you probably never would have found if it weren't for the instrument itself. So aside from Grand Canyon, do you have some stories you can share with us about places that you felt like truly honored to be able to play and to present Sarangi, whether there was nobody there listening at all, if it was just you and nature, or whether it was a group of people?
Oh, well, I enjoy the most, playing in front of my grandfather, because the kind of learnings that I have. And while he's teaching, there is no place which is more beautiful than that in the world. And, it is an honor to learn from him. And, I feel extremely responsible for carrying on the work that he's done to establish the sarangi as a solo classical instrument. So, I feel the most beautiful place to play the sarangi is in front of him at home.
That's wonderful. And he's still with us. He's still living.
He's still with us. He's, extremely active, teaching every day, and practicing every day still.
Wow. That's truly amazing. I think a lot of people have heard me tell stories about my own connection to Indian classical music and the importance. And so many listeners, I think, remember the very first time they heard a sitar or a sarod or tabla. And it was from the 1960s, really, when that intentional wave left India and came to America with people like your grandfather and Ustad Al-Raka and Ravi Shankar and others. And so I feel like we're now at the stage where we're losing a lot of them. We're losing a lot of those early pioneers that helped bridge that gap between East and West. So as a musician that's carrying this forward, how do you feel like a sense of responsibility to continue this musical tradition, both in India and in America and around the world?
Yes, absolutely I do, because, the great work that the masters have done, that can never be repeated again. But however, musicians of the younger generation, from my generation, including myself, and specifically for the sarangi, because there are very few exponents of the sarangi, and hardly you can just a few of them who really want to present it like the way it should be on a solo classical platform at the best international stages. So that is what my objective in life is, and as a musician, to do that in the best possible way.
Well, I think you're doing a truly phenomenal job. I hope your grandfather's listening right now. I'm sure what's the time difference is like 13 hours or something.
About close to 11, 12 hours perhaps. Yeah.
But I really appreciate you carrying this tradition forward and playing with us. And once again, if you'd like to hear the sarangi presented in a classical form, Harsh Narayan will be performing with Tai Burho on tabla, who is a disciple of Ustad Zakir Hussain, who's receiving his honorary doctorate from the Berklee College of Music in the near future, I've heard. So he's another one of those instrumentalists who has taken the tradition from his father and then kind of carried it forward and inspired so many people. And I think that's what I love about this tradition, is that although it's so old, and at one time was very closely guarded for certain reasons, there was a point in history where the decision was made to let's share this with as many people as we possibly can. And I appreciate you being able to share your music with us. So
thank you very much, Matt.
You're so welcome, Harsh. I wish you well on your journey and with your music. And any other thoughts you'd like to share, either about the instrument or about the tradition, or anything you'd like to let people know?
Oh, well, I would just request the audience of Tucson to come and listen to the concert, and encourage young musicians like me, and encourage sarangi as an instrument to be heard more often. So it is a request of mine to come to the concert, listen to me, and listen to some good music.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. You can get advance tickets at TucsonHarmonium.com. They'll probably sell out if they haven't already. But once again, there's 2 concerts happening at 3 p.m. and at 7 p.m. this Saturday. You can get tickets at TucsonHarmonium.com. This is a rare opportunity to hear a young master on the Sarangi. So once again, thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me here, Matt.
You got it.